Sir Francis Drake is one of the most famous naval heroes of all time. He is a hero of the age of exploration in England, but the Spanish called him Francis the Dragon because of both his last name and his many triumphs against their empire. Drake was one of the most famous privateers. Privateers were like pirates, except they had an official but secret license to kill and steal from enemies of their king or queen. Because it was secret, it let countries attack other countries without directly declaring war on them. Essentially, Sir Francis Drake was a pirate with permission. In 1572, he set off on a journey to capture the awe-inspiring treasure of the Spanish Empire that came up from South America and then crossed the Atlantic to Spain. In order to get the treasure to Spain, the Spanish colonists sent gold and silver up the Pacific coast of South America by large ships. The treasure then crossed from the Pacific coast to the Atlantic coast by a mule train across the Isthmus of Panama. An isthmus is a narrow piece of land that separates two large bodies of water, in this case the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. In this first great adventure, Drake was wildly successful and captured over 20 tons of gold and silver. His success made him instantly one of the wealthiest and most famous people in all of England. His newfound fame attracted Queen Elizabeth's attention, and she asked Drake to go on an expedition. In this expedition, he would lead a group to explore the Spanish Pacific colonies, to raid their treasures again, and to gain information about the world. Drake set off on his historic journey on the 13th of December, 1577. He sailed south from England and went around Cape Horn to cross from the Atlantic to the Pacific. A cape is a piece of land that juts into the ocean and shows a change in the coastline. Cape Horn separates the Atlantic from the Pacific. However, crossing around Cape Horn is extremely dangerous because of powerful winds, waves, and the rocky coastline. While he was crossing it, Drake lost the two other ships in his fleet, leaving him with just one ship to continue his journey. Continuing north along the Pacific coast, Drake managed to capture a Spanish treasure galleon. Galleons were the largest ships of the time, used for both combat and trade. This galleon held over 26 tons of silver, 80 pounds of gold, and many precious jewels. With his newfound treasure, Drake continued sailing north up the Pacific coast. Planing across the mighty Pacific, he stopped to repair and resupply his ships in what is now California. He left in the summer and navigated safely until he nearly shipwrecked on the coral reefs of the Spice Islands. Coral reefs are shallow rock-like formations that can cut open a ship like knives. They are made by enormous colonies of microscopic animals. After some repairs and some very profitable trades, Drake continued traveling across the Indian Ocean and around Africa, and he finally returned home to England on the 26th of September, 1580. He had traveled from England across the Atlantic, around Cape Horn, across the Pacific and Indian Oceans, around Africa, and finally back to England. Sir Francis Drake became the first Englishman to circumnavigate the globe. Upon his return, he was greeted with a huge celebration, and Queen Elizabeth rewarded him by knighting him to make him Sir Francis Drake. She even gave him a personalized jewel with her portrait, and it is said that the two were secret lovers. However, Drake's adventures were not over. The Spanish were already planning something big, and his queen would need to call in his help yet again. The vocabulary words for this story were privateers, isthmus, expedition, cape, galleons, coral reefs, and circumnavigate.